Welcome to Exploring Beyond the Edge with Dr. Cynthia Andrews. Are you ready to explore the conscious path around you? Open your heart and mind and awaken your curiosity? You've stopped into the right place. Now, here is your host, Dr. Cynthia Andrews.
Hey there, this is Cynthia. So I'm here tonight without my co-host Colin. He's taken the night off. He's taking a few nights off, actually. But I hope everybody is well. Before we begin tonight's program, I just wanted to make an announcement for those of you who are local to Connecticut. Colin and I will be at the Red Barn in Durham on Sunday from 12 to 4 at a fair with our books and talking to people. It's 352 Main Street in Durham, and if you are local, come on by. It'll be great to see you, and there's a lot of great things happening at the Red Barn that you probably want to check out. So, tonight's show is very much appropriate to where we are right now in the month of December with all of our focus on family and yet how uncomfortable it can be to be with family. So, I'm not going to say a lot about what we're doing because it's going to unfold, but I'm going to just go right into an introduction of Jadina, who will be leading us tonight in a discussion on systemic constellations. So Jadina Lilien leads national and international workshops in systemic constellations. She really has a very unique ability to tap into the natural healing potential within each one of us, and yet, that potential that's really bigger than us. And her combination of innate ability and meticulous training gives what she does a lot of power, and having experienced it, and Colin has experienced it as well, I can validate how much power is in just a very, very short session with her. So Jadina meets people, right where they are, and in a way that helps them move forward and untangle inner knots so that they can access their own relationship to Source. She inspires the people she works with to live the deeper beauty behind their story. She is an artist with a Master's of Fine Arts degree from New York University. She studies meditation, dreams, and symbolism with Llewellyn Vaughan Lee, and I'm sure I said that wrong. She is proficient with focusing process and active imagination, initiated by Carl Jung. And she trained in family constellations at the Bert Hellinger Institute in the USA and with European teachers as well. Jadina's recent screenplay, Ghost Horse, was awarded a New York Foundation for the Arts Fellowship. She co-created a book titled Butterfly Against the Wind that is extraordinary, and everyone should go on Amazon and buy it. You can see her at creativeconstellations.net, and I highly recommend you check her out. So welcome, Jadina.
Hi, Cynthia.
Thanks so much for coming tonight. We had some bumps getting here, and I'm so glad you're here because what you're doing and what this program is about is so amazingly helpful to people. So thank you so much for being here.
Yes, you're welcome.
So, Jadina, I think that a lot of people don't have any idea what constellation therapy is, and some people have probably never even heard of it before. So why don't we start by you just telling people what is systems constellation?
Well, it goes by a few different names. It goes by systems constellations, ancestral family constellations, systemic constellations. Basically, it's an alternative therapeutic method integrating existential phenomenology, family systems therapy, and elements of indigenous ways connected to family, ancestors, and life. And that's the Wikipedia definition. But what it is, it's about invisible loyalties that we have in the system and how the process makes these loyalties visible and the entanglements that are caused by these loyalties. So if we make it conscious, the relationship between the present and the past if we make it conscious, these entanglements become very visible, that we have certain loyalties towards people and we don't even know. For example, you might have, inside of us, we want to include everybody out of love. And so if we exclude somebody, or if the system excludes somebody, we might take on an illness or a mental challenge they have just to be close to them.
Mm-hmm. And do people generally know? Do people generally know that they have these, that they've taken things on, or is that something that's a surprise for them when they do the work with you?
Oh, they're totally surprised. Totally surprised. It is very interesting how we don't know. I remember even my brother had back pain, terrible back pain, just like my father. I mean, these are the obvious ones. And you mentioned that to him, and he's like, no, I don't think so. And this was after he passed away. The back pain got worse because he wanted to be close to him. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So the constellations just makes all of this visible, actually. And you know, this is very interesting because in consciousness, there are more possibilities than unconsciousness, right? So to be conscious is the first step, which is opening the door. But the difficulty is the whole system is saying, keep the door closed. Mm-hmm. Keep the secrets a secret. Mm-hmm. So this is a total block to the very first step of keeping movement flowing in a system, is the whole system doesn't want anything to be revealed. Mm-hmm. So that's the one of the main intentions of the work, is to restore the movement in the system, and therefore in one's life. And in one single session, this can all happen, where we can see a dynamic that spans multiple generations in a given family can be revealed in one session. It's quite extraordinary.
Right. So secrets follow generation to generation, and the dysfunction within a family, we all agree to play our part in that dysfunction so that we don't lose relationship with people. And the scariest thing is to lose relationship to people, even though the relationship is totally dysfunctional.
That's right, because in us, we don't want to for good reason.
Absolutely.
So we just have to find the way to have it in a healthy way, and that's where the indigenous thinking comes in. They knew that naturally. We're connected to ancestors. You know, all my relations. That's natural. Yeah. Right.
So we go and sit by gravestones, and they do work to actually connect, their family and things. So I remember when we did our program together, when I did my constellation therapy with you, I discovered that my whole story had been about how I was an outcast from my family. And in that, 5-10 minutes that we did together, it became immediately apparent that I had actually chosen to align with my grandparents that were kind of on the outside, rather than be a part of the chaos and confusion of the main family, and that it was a choice and I had never been, cast out. And that was a huge revelation to me that changed my relationships with everybody. So it's that simple kind of thing that can happen. So, Jadina, tell us a little bit about the history of constellation therapy. How was it developed, and what was it modeled on?
Well, that's very simple. It was started by Bert Hellinger, who is the founder from Germany, and he worked and lived as a Catholic priest in South Africa for 16 years in the 1950s and 1960s. And during these years, he became fluent in the Zulu language, and he participated in Zulu rituals and gained an appreciation for the Zulu worldview. So he then moved back to Germany and incorporated the tradition of the Zulu people into what he created then for the West, which is the systemic constellation. So it's Bert Hellinger that brought it to the West, yeah. And since then, as with many processes, a few people worked around him and became very good at it, and then they broke off and then did their own thing. And that's basically how it happens, yeah.
So what is the essence of constellation?
The essence is the flow of love. And love, not in a romantic way. The romantic love can lead to this kind of love, but it's a love that is conscious and present. So it's all about the flow of love, and where did it stop? And there's this beautiful quote by Ibn Arabi. He's a great Sufi. Lovers lose their way in love and become entangled. And to me, that says it perfectly, that the entanglement is natural and needed. So you want to be conscious of these entanglements. And by this awareness, just let them fall where they will go. And some will stay and some will fall away. You know, as a facilitator, if you jump right in and purify everything with untangling and making things perfect, you might wipe out the love too.
So somehow the entanglement holds the love in some way. It maintains a connection that keeps the love present.
Totally. There was this artist who did this artwork, and let me just read you this. It's so beautiful. She does this artwork of a portrait of herself with like nails, and she takes one thread and with hundreds and thousands of nails, and she just wraps the thread around the whole picture. But she says here, okay, ever since I was little, I was euphoric, as long as I was left alone to draw or make something. In fact, my father named me Kumi, which uses two Chinese characters. The first character, I, translate as to make or create. And the second character translates as beauty. So maybe my dad jinxed me. I was very fortunate in that my parents never once questioned the direction I chose to continue making impractical things. Instead, they gave me all the support a child could ask for. I never consciously made a decision to become an artist. I just continued doing what I most enjoyed. So I'm mentioning, right? I'm mentioning it. Can you imagine being jinxed by your father that way?
Yeah, right. You know? Well, and it happens to us all the time, and we do it to others all the time.
Well, but listen to this, Cynthia, that we actually were jinxed. And I mentioned the thread because the negative and the positive is actually all one thread. And when you untangle what's going on, you see the positive in what seemingly was negative.
So how does a constellation therapy session work? I mean, I know that you can have multiple people in a session, or you can do it one-on-one, and I think you can even do it alone, right?
Yes, yeah. It usually takes place in a workshop with a group of individuals who are not related. The disconnectedness, which is felt intuitively, some say telepathically, by the members of the group, and the field that we work in is called the morphic field. So this is a field which holds all this information. It's like a pause or a silence. I think that when we pause or we're silent, it's actually divine intervention. And so that's how the group constellation is set up. And then I could go into, go ahead.
Can I so basically someone comes into the group with a question or a problem or a dysfunction, and then the different people in the group act out or take the place of a family member so what are these other people doing for the person who is being worked with?
Yes, exactly what you said. The only difference is they don't act it out. They actually represent. I will actually intuit what different types of representatives might be needed. So yes, different people will represent the mother, the father, grandparents, grandchildren, depending forces in the life, by what they tell me, by the story. And then the people just follow their movements, and that's what I was meaning about the morphic field.
Right.
It just starts to move into a beautiful pattern that shows what's going on.
Yeah. And so essentially you kind of channel what you're representing and put that perspective out in a verbal or visible way for the person to be able to process.
Yes, and many people say that's one of the parts of it that is very powerful, that now it's outside of themselves.
Yeah, beautiful.
It's a relief. They're not carrying it anymore. And they actually, because, again, it's all about love, they really are loving seeing this, whether it's entangled or not, whether it causes tears or not. It brings a real deep feeling of peace.
And if I heard you right, then not only do the participants represent other people in this person's life, but they also represent things like destiny or things like your creativity, or things that are less tangent or tangible.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, sometimes even we will do things, blind constellations, where we, on a piece of paper, I'll put different qualities or family places, and just give these to the participants. They won't even know who they are. And they move around. Those are some of the most, interestingly enough, some of the most clearest constellations is when the representatives don't know who they are. Yeah.
I think, that would make sense to me. And so what do you do when you're working one-on-one with people?
One-on-one, I'm using figurines. Doing the same exact thing, but I'm using figurines. And amazingly, it does work. And maybe because I can actually intuit something going on, and then something goes on between me and the client, and it actually is the same thing, but it's with these figurines. That's that's what I did with you, and also with Colin. Yeah.
And so then with the figurines, sometimes I was the one intuiting what each of the figurines was feeling, sensing, and sometimes you would come in with a piece of information that I could accept or reject as it felt comfortable for me. And so it was very much respectful of my own inner process as we were doing it.
Totally. Always the client is the boss. I'm constantly checking in with the client, to see how,
Okay, so we're going to be taking a break in a minute, but everybody listening now, go and collect 5 objects, because in the next section, Jadina is going to lead us through a little process that we can work with. So go get 5 objects in a flat little area that you can work in, and they can be any objects. It doesn't matter what they are. We are talking right now with Jadina about the creative constellation process, and for those of you who are interested, Jadina offers one-on-one and group constellations in person, but she also does it online, and she can be seen and reached at creativeconstellations.net. You can also email her at jadinalilien@gmail.com. Jadina is an artist. She has constellation cards and the beautiful book, Butterfly Against the Wind. You can see her work on her Facebook page, Creative Constellations. So we will be right back in a little bit. Don't go far, and bring back your 5 objects.
It's your world. Motivate, change, succeed. VoiceAmericaEmpowerment.com.
We all have the inner ability to use the gifts within ourselves to serve ourselves, our families, loved ones, and our communities. Once you have discovered these gifts and talents, you can promote harmony, peace, and hope. To find out how to harness your own gifts and talents, tune in to Get Ready. Get ready for your breakthrough with host Felicia A. Hill, live every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time and 2 p.m. Pacific Time on the Voice America Empowerment Channel. Listen and share with others.
Moving forward can be difficult to do sometimes. There is always something going on. Many times, nobody else knows exactly what you're going through. If you are experiencing pain or loss, even something that is unexplained that is missing in your life, You'll want to tune into Go For It with host Joe Hausman. Joe and her guests will show you laughter and love. Sometimes you just need something a little positive in your week. Make that spot Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, 6 a.m. Pacific Time on Voice America Empowerment. The Voice America Live Events channel is here now to showcase your corporate, individual, or organization's live event. Visit voiceamerica.com/live events to see all of our past live events and find out more. Whether it's a multi-day conference, special speaker, or single-day event, we've got everything to make your event a success. We can do a few hours or a few days. For more information about taking your event to the next level, call Jeff Spinard at 480-294-6417 or email info@voiceamerica.com. Again, that's Jeff Spinard at 480-294-6417 or send us an email to info@voiceamerica.com. Voice America is where you are and where you want to be. Join us around the globe as we broadcast live from some of the most interesting events available. Don't forget to view all our live events, including on-demand access to past events that you may have missed by visiting voiceamerica.com/live events.
Follow us on Twitter for more great ideas at Voice America Empowerment.
This is Exploring Beyond the Edge. To reach Dr. Cynthia Andrews or her guest today, please call 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. You may also send an email to energyexplorations@gmail.com. Now, back to our program.
So, welcome back. We're talking today with Jadina Lilien. She's an artist and practitioner of creative constellations. And before the break, we were talking about how group sessions are done and how individual sessions with Jadina are done. And before we go into our process, I just wanted to ask you, Jadina, the third way that people can work with this is alone, is by themselves, right? So what you're teaching right now, they might be able to do something with on their own.
I think so. It's working with the figures, which I will explain, so we'll just work with it. I do them every single day, and it's very interesting. Again, as I mentioned earlier, just by making something conscious, opening the door, seeing, already starts the movement flowing. So what I show you tonight, you could do every day and watch your relationship with mom and dad change, even if they're not alive.
That's excellent. So you were going to lead us in a meditation or a guided silence, correct?
Yes. First, I will, lead everyone in a beautiful guided silence. I think it's very special. And then afterwards we can do the figurines.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Excellent.
Yes. So if everybody would, close your eyes or keep them open, whichever you feel most comfortable, and just take a moment and watch your breath. See how it's moving in your body right now. You don't have to change anything. It may be shallow, it may be deep. Just let it be. And then imagine for a moment that behind you stands your mother and your father. And behind them stands their mother and father. No matter what it looks like right now, just let it be. And you might know them, you might not. But just see behind the mother and father is their mother and father, your grandparents. And behind them is their mother and father and their grandparents. And this goes back and back and back to probably also another land that you came from, another country before coming here. Include that too. And then include the ancestors of this land and the history of this land here in this state. And in whatever way it shows up, include the trees and the sky animals, sisters and brothers, aunts and uncles that might have been important. And as you stand there, feel your heartbeat connected to the heartbeat of the earth. And know as you stand with all that support, no matter what it looked like, it could have been great support, it might not have been support, but underneath it all, there was the strength and the power for life. And know that you are like the sun and the moon. You have a right to be here. And it's interesting, Carl Jung said that he often seems as if there was an impersonal karma which within a family which is passed on from parents to children. And he said, it has always seemed to me that I had to answer questions which fate had posed to my forefathers, which had not been answered, where he felt like he had to complete or continue something which was unfinished. And we all have that. It's a continuation. We continue where our ancestors' family left off. So with all of that, take one step forward away from them. And when you're ready, open your eyes.
That was really beautiful, Jadina. Thank you. It really, as the branches, go out behind you and you feel the solidness of what has gone before you and how it almost kind of pushes you forward in life. At the same time, there's this great vastness in front of you that is the sea of potential that you can do anything with. It was a great meditation. Thank you.
Yes, I like it very much. Yeah.
So, how are we working with our objects? Okay,
so take the objects. Now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when you're doing this, don't think too much. Actually, first thought, best thought is the way to go right now. So decide if you want. We're going to work with the destiny of our mother or father and our destiny. And we will see how it's entangled or not entangled. That would be interesting. So basically what we're doing tonight is just seeing some very quick information. So with your objects, well, first decide who you want to work with, your mother or your father. We're just going to work with one or the other. I'm going to work with mother. So I will take one of my objects and say that's going to represent mother and put it on the table in a position that I intuitively just put her in. And know which way she's facing. Is she facing right, left, up, down? Have that idea. So put mother there, and then put another object for mother's destiny. And put that where you want it to be in relationship to mother. Is it close to her? Is it far away? Is it looking towards her? Just very quickly. Yes. And you might be able to intuit it or you might not. I see my mother looking actually away from her destiny. And it's not so close to her, interestingly enough. Okay, and so then have a representative for you, one of the objects, and put that in relationship to the mother and the mother's destiny. Just quickly put it. And you will see information. Is it close? Are you closer to the mother or are you closer to her destiny? And then with the fourth object, have that be your destiny and put that in a position also. Just quickly. When you start to get information, do you look at your destiny or are you looking at your mother? Or her destiny? I think, at least for myself, I would like to be looking at my destiny. which interestingly enough I am, which I've done this, do it every day, and sometimes I'm not. So I already see there's movement of change. And so then we have one more object, and name some sort of quality that you really love or respect that would actually inspire you to step towards your destiny, and place that somewhere. Take a quick minute. It could be beauty, creativity, passion, a force of life, God, the sacred, whatever you think is important in connection with your destiny. And just put that. And when you put that in there, see if it changes anything. Does the mother want to move away? And just make one more adjustment with anybody that wants to move in this configuration. So that is it, and you can do that every day. And you could do it with the father, you can do it with the mother.
Introduce different things. So that was actually really interesting. So I had a pair of eyeglasses for my mother. She was always wearing eyeglasses. And her destiny, I wanted to put very far away from her, except that I suddenly became aware that that was my judgment, that it was that far away from her. And so when I asked, where is her destiny, it turned out to be right inside the folding of the glasses. And it's like I would have said 100 million times that my mother had been unable to live her destiny by the circumstances of her life. And yet there it is. Her destiny is right inside of her. And I was wrong.
Well, it's so beautiful, because with the constellations, I feel sometimes it is actually that real, or it's the blueprint now inside of you, which has changed, which is very powerful, actually. So, and where were you then in relation to
I was pretty far away from my mother, and my destiny was moving away from my mother as well, until I can't remember what shifted, but all of a sudden I looked back at my mother and realized that that my destiny actually looked back at my mother as well. That my mother has supported my destiny through every single action in my life. Everyone.
Has she actually done it?
Yeah, she did. She did.
Wow, very, very nice. It's nice to hear that too. You know, yeah, I had more difficulty with my mom usually. But now, you know, it's inside of me. A lot has changed. Yeah. The uncovering of this is enough.
So people, after they've done a constellation, is there anything that they need to do to hold on to it? Is there, I mean, you know, what should they do with what they've uncovered? Anything?
I think, well, of course, you want to, whatever you feel. You maybe want to write, maybe you want to create something from there. But really, I think just this simple act of doing this and seeing and looking is really enough. You know, there's so much magic in the world, ordinary magic. We don't have to do anything. It's there for us. But I think what is needed is to do it and also give space to it. That's why I say sometimes you might not want to do too much with it, because for me the space is divine intervention. It's ordinary. We all have access to it. So yeah, not very much. You know.
Yeah, no, that's really beautiful. And you know, like with me, with my mother, it's like it is true that she supported every single thing, but it was at a cost. You know, like there was a cost involved in that, and it wasn't that she wanted it that way. It's the way that it is. And so these types of processes can allow us to see what those cost benefits were and to understand why we participate in the dynamics that we participated in. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, very sweet. I think it's a very touching process. The other day, I was giving a workshop, and there was a woman who was a playwright, and she came, and she didn't know what was going on with her and her work. Mm-hmm. So there were representatives for her mother and father, the playwright, the writing, and the child. And the child and the playwright were like all over the place. And she, a representative for herself, was in the arms of her mother and father, who are holding her so close in such a really strong, loving way. And at some point, she just burst out and just flew over and started working with the child and the writing and her creativity. And it really showed me how, and she would have never have known this would have happened. Mm-hmm. But that if you get that love, if you feel that love, you naturally will separate. Mm-hmm. If you include the love of your parents, mm-hmm. You don't have to worry that you will be smothered and stay there forever.
Mm-hmm. And I think it is an interesting thing that we often focus on, like I focused on the cost of my mother's support all my life. And when you refocus on the fact that it was just support, or when you can let go of your story a little bit and realize that behind the actions, there was love. And so we focus so much on the actions and not on what inspired those actions, because we imagine, we project based on how they made us feel, right? But essentially, I think, parents don't have children wanting to not love them.
No, and actually, it is a part of the philosophy of the constellations is that if you reject your mother, or if there's an estranged relationship, you will have difficulty birthing your own life into the world. Mm. Because no matter what happens, which it's not to forgive, it's not to forget, but it's to receive the gift of life that came through her. So it's the relationship with life. Yeah.
That is really beautiful, and we're going to come back to that thought after the break. Right now we're going into our second break. So we're here talking with Jadina Lilien about creative constellations. And don't forget that Jadina does offer one-on-one and group constellations in person or online. She can be reached at creativeconstellations.net or jadinalilien@gmail.com. And we're going to talk about some of her products when we come back. So take a break and come back in just a few minutes. Thanks, guys.
It's your world. Motivate, change, succeed. VoiceAmericaEmpowerment.com.
Being Here with Ariel and Shia Kane is an ordinary person's guide to modern-day enlightenment. This show is an exciting exploration that opens the door to living in the moment. Don't miss Being Here. Tune in every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, with award-winning authors Ariel and Shia Kane, right here on the Empowerment Channel.
It's time for you to take a sweet and honest look at your life. Tune into Living Within the Sweet Spot with your host, Nikki Klegel. Each week, Nikki invites you to call into the program, where she will connect with each listener to show the power of God's love in every unique instance. There are gracious gifts and elements of power within each one of us. You just need to discover them and find your life's purpose. Live healthier and happier. Listen every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 7 a.m. Pacific on Voice America Empowerment.
Follow us on Twitter for more great ideas at Voice America Empowerment.
This is Exploring Beyond the Edge. To reach Dr. Cynthia Andrews or her guest today, please call 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. You may also send an email to energyexplorations@gmail.com. Now, back to our program.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We are talking with Jadina Lilien, artist and practitioner of systemic constellations. Now, before we get into the next part of the conversation, I really wanted Jadina to explain some of the products that she has because they are really cool. So, and they incorporate her artwork, which is phenomenal. Really, if you want to get in touch with inner things, looking at her images really does that. So, Jadina, why don't you share with people what they might be able to find on your website?
Well, as you've mentioned, I do individual one-on-one sessions. Then I do group work, and I can travel wherever I am invited to. And then I do a process of custom artwork connected to a individual constellations I do, and we see what comes up, and then I will paint something for you to inspire you to see what gift you are here to give to the world, what quality that can be incorporated into anything that you do. So I do those three processes, and then I have a deck of 54 cards with my artwork, and then the different words on the back that describe the constellation process. And those are also on the website. Everything's on the website, creativeconstellations.net. The book, Butterfly Against the Wind, which I did with Teokusin Ghost Horse, definitely also connects with constellations because it shares with you the indigenous way of living and a pretty much history of the native people's literal history, their present day situation, and the between worlds mystical side of the Lakota. There's one quote here, which I will say, which is in the language of the Lakota, there is no word for love. Instead, they say Mahashani, which means you are my skin.
Beautiful.
So, yeah. So as you see that, how love can have a very deep meaning, and it is true. When you love, we are the skin of somebody else. So if you are rejecting that can cause a lot of confusion. But so the book is called Butterfly Against the Wind, and the books and the cards are really nice gifts.
Yes, they actually are. Butterfly Against the Wind, just to be clear, are Jadina's paintings with Teokusin's wisdom from the Lakota, and it is just really a beautiful, beautiful book. We enjoy ours very much. So, Jadina, the general process is called systemic constellations or family constellations or ancestrals. You call the process you do specifically creative constellations. Can you explain why and what it is that got you started on constellation path?
Well, the creative part, I thought, that's what I know best. And when I was talking before, we each have the different qualities to how do we inspire people. Mine is through creativity. And I also think that the constellations is so important, and I'm interested in how it connects with what we want to create in the world and creation itself, and also specific projects. And in a way, there is a story from the Zulu tribe where when a child is born, they come up with a song before the child is born. Then they sing it to the child when the child is born and at other milestones in the child's life. And if they go off the track at any point, they sing the song again. So I think we all have that song somewhere. And it's connected to the system. Like, what's the song of our whole system, our whole family system, that now we're going to step forward and sing?
You know what you're reminding me of is the songs of the humpback. It's like they go through the season, and when they first start the season of singing, they have a compressed song that represents all the songs that have gone before them, and then they go through the season adding pieces to the song, and then in the next season, that part has been compressed into the part before, and so they're always adding to this song that goes back hundreds and I mean, who knows how far back the songs of the humpback whale go? Isn't that extraordinary?
Exactly. That's exactly it, Cynthia. Really, that's beautiful. Wow. Yep. That's it.
You know, creativity is a very, I think, in my opinion, creativity is one of the things that brings us closest to an understanding of what it would be to be God, to be Source, that creative spark and seeing it manifest in the world, right? So what kinds of things do you see in the work that you do that get in the way of people's creative process, that stops that process from being manifest?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Well, the entanglements of love. To do one's creativity, that means that it feels like one might be going against the whole system, against the mother, or against the father. A lot of times it's the actually collective system that.
So you mean like social system?
Yeah, isn't supported so much, and so people stop because of that. There's this beautiful quote by Alice Walker. She says, and so our mothers and grandmothers, more often than not, anonymously, handed on the creative spark, the seed of the flower that they themselves didn't hope to see. More like a sealed letter they could not plainly read. So it seems like the creative spark a lot of times is hidden in the family. People had to, they had to really, there was a lot of hardships in the family. Creativity seemed separate from life, rather than that was life. Yeah.
Oh, that's really beautiful. You know, and as you're talking, all of the things that you're saying really exemplify a lot of Carl Jung's thinking about collective unconscious and how it works its way through us in different ways. There's a new book out, isn't there? Peter Kingsley wrote a book, Cataful K or something?
Yes. I think that's how you pronounce it. Is that how you pronounce it?
I think so. I'm not really sure. But you were talking to me the other day about an excerpt from that book. You don't happen to have that?
Let's see. I don't have it right now. He was mentioning, because the book is about Carl Jung. It's actually, it's about Carl Jung. So he was talking about that exact question that I said earlier.
Oh, that's right. Yes, that's right about that. We're living through. We have a particular task or burden, which is to find the answer through living through our own lives from our ancestors. That's right. You were talking about that earlier. It is a beautiful remembrance. So, Jadina, how did you yourself find this process in your life? How did you come to this?
Oh, yeah. For me, a lot of times, and this is how it came to be, as it usually does, which is I was just somewhere and they did a sample constellations. I didn't even see it. It was in the dark, but I knew something. And then I went to a workshop, and I just knew right away that this was something that was right for me to do and to study. The interesting thing was when I first did the constellation, I had no idea that my ancestors affected me. None. Really. I was totally surprised. I knew the psychology of, different things with mother and father. That's the other thing. Like different people that do the constellations work with a different focus. Some people, it's psychological. Some people, it's even clairvoyant. Yeah, for me, it's actually more sacred, and I want to see what the field shows me. And I want to let the energy resolve itself. So we also get the experience of something, the unknown, that is actually probably more involved in our life than the known anyway. Actually, science says do you know this? Science says we only see 4% of what's out there. The rest is dark matter, 96%. Yeah. So anyway, that's energy, yeah.
So did you see changes happen in your family relationships once you started doing the process?
That's a good question. Not so dramatically. I do remember a constellation I did, which was really interesting because it wouldn't move. And the facilitator, there was a man from Germany, he just left it like that. And I was very happy he did, because it made me see the truth. That there was something, it reflected the truth that I knew in my heart.
That things just couldn't move. But you move inside yourself, the dynamic moves, so that you are able to be in the world in a different way, correct? Or not, I mean,
well,
correct.
Once I saw that, it really freed up so much. Instead of pretending, I was like, oh yeah, this is correct, and for good reasons. And then, I think the relationship with my mother has really improved a lot. Yeah.
Well, so Jadina, as we're ending out the night, I cannot believe that it's already over, but what would you like to leave people with tonight? What one thought would you like to leave them with?
Well, I think that if whatever they find that opens them up, connect with it and live it and do it. And if they find somebody to work with so you can see what's in the way. Because really, that will be such a gift, and it's needed now in the world. That energy needs to move creatively. Yeah.
That's excellent. Well, so folks, if you want to reach out to Jadina, you can get her at jadinalilien@gmail.com or creativeconstellations.net. Just really quickly before we go, next week be sure to tune in. We're talking with Barbara Shulman-Kerwin, who works with forgiveness therapy, and the week after that we're talking with Joyce Logan, who wrote a book about overcoming anxiety, and both of those programs are going to be excellent programs, so be sure you tune on in. Let's see, what else do we have? Thank you, Jadina. Be sure to come on down to Durham. We are at 352 Main Street in Durham this Sunday from 12 to 4. Colin and I will be there with our books and talking to people, and come on if you can do it, and otherwise, we'll see you next week. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Exploring Beyond the Edge is heard every Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time and 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America Empowerment Channel. Until our next program, Dr. Cynthia Andrews wishes you a great week.